Some disappearances happen in the dark, on empty roads, in quiet places, far from where anyone might see. But Tammy Lynn Leppert disappeared in the middle of the day, in the Florida sun, in a place where people were coming and going, where cars passed, where nothing should have gone unnoticed. She was young, visible, and on the edge of something bigger, a life and career she had been working towards for years. And yet, whatever happened next happened in a way that left almost nothing behind. No clear timeline, no confirmed sightings, no answers. This is her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week, we are joined by Kathy Garver.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
Vanessa, I have been thinking about today's missing person since I first started writing poetry in honor of missing and unidentified women.
Oh, wow. So this is a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. So, when I wrote my collection of poetry, I had to make decisions about what gets included and what doesn't. But I keep circling back to her. And so I'm glad we were able to talk about her case today.
I think it's good that you finally got to do that. And did you write the poem now, or was this a poem you already had?
So writing this poem now.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah. I think I see her name pop up every once in a while. So I'm actually thankful that her case, I guess, is still in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what year did she go missing?
1983.
Okay. So that's not always the case, right?
No. So there's been quite a bit of time. Yeah. But this is also why I want to remind our listeners that liking and sharing these episodes helps get these stories out there. And remember who she was. People can remember this case. People can be more active in looking for her.
Well, and also, it's the sharing to look for people, but it's also the part you said earlier, that just keeping her name alive and keeping her memory alive and not just letting somebody kind of fade into what happened to them.
Exactly. Now, if you're one of our Gen X, or dare I say, elder millennial listeners, you've likely seen Tammy Lynn Leppert before without even knowing it. She is the beautiful blonde in a bright blue bikini leaning over a convertible door to distract Manny in 1983's Scarface. In the 1983 film Spring Break, she's credited only as Boxing Girl, but it's her bikini-clad hips laying prostrate in the sand that adorn the film's poster, as miniature versions of David Nell, Perry Lang, Paul Land, and Steve Bissette scale her side and plant a white flag in her skin.
I actually looked up that poster after, and I have seen that one a bunch of times, but I would never have known, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the ultimate in 1980s films where women are just kind of reduced to their flat stomach and curvy hips, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's only because someone else confirmed that is in fact Tammy that we know that.
Okay.
Right? Because there's nothing
it's not well documented.
So it's not well documented. All of her work is not well documented in terms of film work. Now, both of those roles are uncredited, so she does not appear in the end credits. And they do seem to point to two things, though. One, Tammy Lynn Leppert was going to be someone. And two, 1983 was going to finally be the year for her to break out into the kind of career she had been dreaming about since she was a child. But Tammy, she would never be able to savor her new successes. By the time Scarface premiered in December, Tammy had been missing for months, her disappearance quickly becoming one of the most baffling cold cases in Florida's history. So how did Tammy Lynn go from being called Brevard County's answer to Shirley Temple to a segment on unsolved mysteries? It's a story with really very few clues, a lot of theories, but at its core remains Tammy, who was a bright and shining star who was a bright and shining star who was waiting for her moment.
So she went missing. Did she go missing like right after those films were?
Yes.
So that same year, right?
Mm-hmm, right in that same year.
How old was she?
She was just 18.
So she really was like on her way up at that age.
Exactly.
She's so young. Oh my gosh. Are you going to tell us a little bit more about her?
You know, that's the core of what I love to do. Mm-hmm. So Tammy appears so much in newspapers. It's kind of like the exact opposite of what we often experience with young people who are missing.
Well, and you called her like their answer to Shirley Temple. Have people actually said that about her?
Yes. So that one of the newspaper articles, like the big headline was Brevard County's answer.
Okay. So, I mean, it makes
Temple.
me think that she was like successful enough as a little kid that there's got to be a good story here.
Right. Okay. So she is, again, we are not lucky enough to kind of come across so much news coverage of someone, particularly someone who's so young. But the first instance of publicity surrounding Tammy that I could find was way back in 1967. And it's a photo of her in the local Florida paper. She is then just 2 years old, and Tammy was already being lauded for the beauty of her smile.
So she kind of like modeling at 2?
So I don't think this is quite yet into modeling, but like...
Was this like the jumping off point for her mom to be like, oh,
I think it might have been like, so this is like her first, like being lauded for being like pretty happens at 2. Yeah. Okay. So, and it really is just a precursor to the kind of coverage that Tammy would get in the local papers. Even her birthday parties made the papers. They are kind of extravagant celebrations, bringing nearly 100 kids to celebrate each year, with everything from like rented popcorn machines to like elaborate like park picnics.
How? Like, is she already working at this point, or is her family wealthy? Like, what is going on here?
So at this point, she is mostly in beauty pageants, and most of the articles focused on her child beauty pageant wins. She and her mother, Linda, like they seemingly go from one after another so Tammy can compete. By the time Tammy was 7, it had just really become a dominant part of her life, so much so that Tammy's stepfather, Richard, he issues this ultimatum. It's either the beauty pageants or me, he told his wife, Linda.
I'm guessing Linda chose pageants?
Well, so that's the thing. Linda is not the one to decide. She passes on this decision-making to her daughter.
Her 7-year-old?
Yes. So Linda said, I told her that once she did this, she would have to abide by it. You know your child and you raise your child right, and you know that whatever choice they made would be the right decision. And this is about her deciding whether or not to get rid of the stepfather or...
That's a big decision, because what if a 7-year-old says, yeah, I want to keep going, but at 9, that same child is saying, no, I want to have a normal life. I don't like all of this. Like, kids change their mind on a whim at those ages.
Right. But like Linda emphasizes, this is the right decision to do. It's Tammy's choice completely. She said she made the decision. He forced her to, and I was on neutral ground.
Okay.
Tammy chose the pageants. She would later reflect on this choice, and she said, I'm not going to let anything stop me. I can't think of anything that discouraged me.
And that was Tammy saying that?
Yeah.
Okay, so she was focused on this.
Right. I mean, you know.
But also, I mean, the stepdad's heart really couldn't be in it if that's what he said, too.
Right.
Because, like, we know there are dads out there supporting their families through this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Tammy had a lot of reason not to be discouraged. By the time she was age 10, she was already known by some of the dozens of various beauty pageant titles she'd won, including Little Miss Florida, Little Miss Talent, and Little Miss Firecracker.
Those are the actual names?
Yes.
That's cute.
Yeah, I am not like wholly familiar with the beauty pageant world, so I am fascinated as well by the titles that they give out.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to love her next. Her next win, though, was Queen of the Earth.
What?
Yeah.
And this is as a child?
This is as a child. And it brought her a $5,000 talent scholarship. So there is a lot of money involved in kind of these. Although there is a lot of expense too, right?
Yeah, it's such a strange thing. I know nothing about child beauty pageants either.
No.
I was asked to be a judge for one once.
Oh.
Just on the fact alone that I'm a photographer.
Oh, okay.
And I did turn it down because, like, as a photographer, I also find it important not to judge people based on their physical appearance.
Well, yeah, because, like, you know, particularly your approach to photography, which is like everyone's beautiful. Right?
Everyone is beautiful. Let's be our natural selves or the selves we choose to be.
Right.
So judging a bunch of, like, toddler through teenager on their appearance just wasn't
your thing.
Wasn't my thing. But I mean, if this child is enjoying this, then
yeah, like, because Linda, her mom, she's also always like behind her daughter in this. Like, she's behind Tammy like every step of the way, managing her pageant appearances to like such a successful degree that Linda was actually able to turn it into her own career. She starts managing the pageant careers of roughly 50 young girls.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So even though Linda had 2 other children at home, the pageant circuit really took up most of Tammy's and by extension, Linda's time. Like, Linda, of course, like never sees this as a bad thing. She described Tammy as a hyperactive child who needed to channel her energy into something constructive. So outside of pageants, Tammy's time was taken up by other activities like 4-H, Girl Scouts, acrobatic lessons. So like very active, busy things.
And the other kids weren't into beauty stuff at all?
They weren't. Although Linda does say like she did try to include, you know, her son and her other daughter in kind of it. Like they offer opinions on Tammy's outfits and performances, but no, they were not actively out there pageanting as well. By 1978, it's clear that the then 13-year-old Tammy was hoping to transition to a film career. It wasn't that she always wanted to be an actress. At some points, she talked about being a dentist, but by the time she was a teen, this seemed to have shifted fully into acting. While other girls picked singing, dancing, or playing instruments for the talent portion of the pageants, Tammy chose acting. Her set involved doing a short skit from Peter Pan, using acting skills she actually taught herself from watching soap operas at home. Linda saw her choice of talent as strategic for 2 reasons. First, very few other contestants chose acting, which meant there was little comparison between Tammy and the other girls for this talent. Second, there was often talent scouts in the audience looking for fresh new faces for things like ad campaigns, magazine covers, and even some acting. Now, this choice is indeed a winner for the team. Tammy, Linda said, never lost the 23 national and state competitions she used this specific Peter Pan skit in.
And that's the Peter Pan skit?
Yes. So it's specifically the scene where Tinkerbell dies.
I can only imagine how, like, cute and dramatic this would have been if she got all of her acting skills from watching soap operas.
Are you trying to figure, like, what's the blend of soap opera to child pageant?
Was it like a blending of like soap opera-y Peter Pan, like, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that like it actually is like later, much later, like years later, people are still talking about this like Peter Pan skit.
So it must have been kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been something. Also, this is the other thing. Tammy can cry on cue.
Okay, so they're watching a child up there just like...
Yeah, because she plays like the Peter Pan role. It's like devastated loss of Tinkerbell.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, this tactic, right, which we're like, what on earth?
Yeah.
It does actually pay off for the team. So by this time, Linda had actually built a name for herself. She was even featured on ABC's 2020 for the work that she did as a manager, not just for Tammy, but the rest of the girls who were signed to her agency. So they're both building careers here. And that's why it's really not surprising that Paramount called Linda and asked for help finding 4 girls to take part in an upcoming movie called Little Darlings, which featured Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal. By this point, Tammy had been in 20 plays. She was on the cover of a national modeling magazine. She'd also done several commercials. So Linda was already in talks to have her star in some television series that she was pitching. So Tammy was a natural pick for the role as well. Now, in 1979, instead of 4 girls, it's 3, Tammy and 2 others, who were hired to be the principal extras in Little Darlings. They had to be on the set for 7 weeks of filming. They missed school to take on this opportunity. But Tammy's initial excitement about the project quickly soured. They found themselves stuck on set, which was a summer camp that the crew had commandeered to be the backdrop for the film, where Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal played camp counselors at an all-girls summer camp.
Have you ever seen this movie?
I have not. Have you?
No.
No.
Now I'm curious.
Yeah, I am too, because Tammy was not happy about this film.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and she was really quick to give her thoughts on her role as soon as filming wrapped up, proclaiming the plot stupid and saying the film, in her words, doesn't have no moral to it.
Okay.
Now, this is likely not surprising. Like, she says that they only found out about the plot of the film towards the end of shooting. So, like, they don't even know what this film...
Like, even the main characters?
No, the extras.
The extras. Oh, okay.
So they're supposed to be playing like campers at this all-girls summer camp, right? And they don't even know what the film is about. And they're there for weeks, right? Now, the whole plot, as far as I can understand, is centered on the camp counselors, played by Christy and Tatum, making a bet to see who would lose their virginity first.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tammy was like, no.
Yeah. Okay. How old's Tammy here?
Oh, she's in her teens. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might just be something she's also uncomfortable with at this point.
Right. So, like, she doesn't like how this is going. Also, like, in general, she's quite sheltered from a lot of stuff. So I'm not surprised that she would be uncomfortable. Now, it also seemed that there seemed to be some friction during the filming itself. Like Steve Walls, who was an entertainment columnist, he believed that Tammy would be like the next big star. And he wrote, "I saw the final print of Little Darlings, and Tammy Lynn has virtually 0 in it. I was told that there was a considerable amount of filming done with her, and that Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal wanted her out of the way."
So does she appear in it at all? Or
No.
No. Okay.
Right, like you spend all this time on a film
And specifically, Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal wanted her out?
this is his assessment of what he thinks happened.
Huh. So the friction was between the actors.
Yeah, so I think what he's trying to say here is that like they're jealous of how pretty.
So like
Tammy
this
is.
extra's upstaging them in her looks.
Yeah, I get that impression that that's what he's implying. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. He's kind of a gossip columning here
So it
instead
could
of
be
just
gossipy.
entertainment columning. But now all of this was a learning experience for Tammy, though. Later, when she was asked about it, she says she learned a lot on set, specifically in her words, to keep my opinions to myself and not saying nothing bad about the stars.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Poor kid.
maybe some friction is right.
Yeah.
Now, her next major role wouldn't come until she played the boxer in Spring Break. And this was an uncredited role, so it's not exactly the breakout performance she was hoping for. And the same happened with the film Scarface. Like, it's another uncredited role for the girl who had been hoping for some stardom.
Have you seen either of those?
Vanessa,
I haven't.
watch very few shows or films.
I watch so many films and I have not seen either of these. Now I'm feeling like I might have a bit of a movie week.
Yeah, so I think you have some homework
Catch up.
to do.
Yes.
I would say that I do, but it would literally take me until the end of the year.
You've been doing well with trying to watch movies, haven't you?
Well, okay, I am...
Did you quit?
No. Okay, my goal, Vanessa, was to watch 50 films by female directors this year to
Okay.
try to increase my movie viewing. And Total, all of the films that I've watched this year, I am now up to 8.
Oh, no.
And like 4 of them were by women, and 4 of them were just picks for like family movie afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, despite kind of not being where she wants to be, right? Tammy still called acting her burning desire, and that acting was what kept her still breathing. Despite this, kind of how things are going, Linda wanted to keep Tammy in Florida instead of relocating to somewhere like Los Angeles where she might have more opportunity. And she argued that it would be a mistake, giving, validation to this, like something along the lines of out in Hollywood, Tammy would be a little fish in a big pond kind of thing. She also believed it would take Tammy years to get established in LA. Tammy's marketable now, Linda said. In Central Florida, she's already considered a star.
Marketable. Which I guess maybe is just like an acting term. But I don't know. As a parent, I get to that word and I'm like, huh.
Yeah, I mean,
Makes me feel slightly uncomfortable.
Because Linda, at the time, although we weren't, this, word was not in use, is like a momager, right? Like she's having to walk that line between being mom, also being her manager, right? So if you thought about like, your talent agent talking about you being marketable, like that makes sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I do know it's like it's that detachment, I guess, that going into work mode.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like I feel like both Linda and Tammy were very often in work mode, right?
Oh yeah, it sounds like Tammy is too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Tammy agrees with kind of her mom's decision to keep her in Central Florida. She said, I like this place. I've lived here all my life and I'd like to stay here. Since I was a little girl, I've always dreamed of having a house on Cocoa Beach and living happily ever after. But this decision did draw criticism. Steve Walls, who's again that columnist who had been following Tammy for years, did still predict that she would be as big as Brooke Shields or Melissa Gilbert. But he thought this whole thing would take longer if she stayed in Florida. The talent, he said, is obviously there. I can't believe I'm saying this. She's not just another dumb blonde.
You said it. But it's not you.
It's not me, it's him.
Okay.
But in order to make it big, she'll have to take the traditional route, which means she's got to get out of her home state and she's got to go to Hollywood. She's got her whole life in front of her now, and if I were in her position, I'd go to California and say, see you later. Just as Tammy started to make some progress in her career without leaving Florida behind, the wheels seemed to fall off. In 1983, Linda actually starts considering a few roles for Tammy out in LA. So maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, right?
Right.
This was around the time that Tammy was on the set for Scarface. Though playing only a small role, the film was actually quite hard on Tammy. Linda would later say that Tammy was afraid of blood, and even though they used fake blood on set, Tammy started crying and almost passed out when it was used. It's also around this time that Tammy starts becoming noticeably paranoid. She wouldn't drink from any open containers, and she would only eat from someone else's plate, not her own. And she started hiding in her room, refusing to even answer the door.
This is really unusual behavior for like an 18-year-old.
Yes. So this is a complete departure specifically for Tammy. Like before she'd been someone who said one of her goals in life was to make people smile, and she would set out every day, every time she was outside, trying to make people smile. Right? Now, because of this dramatic departure and how she's doing and also interacting with the world, there's speculation about what was happening in Tammy's life to cause this complete change. Linda insisted that her daughter had confessed that a friend had told her about drug money laundering operation in Brevard County, and that this was headed by some of the most powerful people locally. And this knowledge is what made Tammy fear for her life.
So is she thinking that with the open containers and eating her own plate that somebody would poison her?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're not the target. I'll eat food off of your plate, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's essentially like scared for her life, right? Now, Linda told Tammy to go and talk to the police. Wise move, and it does seem that she did. An officer named Mike Wong said he did remember meeting with her around this time. He said that to best of his recollection, their conversation actually had nothing to do with Tammy worrying about someone killing her. Instead, he recalled it as a conversation about some stolen property that she wanted returned to her.
Do we know anything more about that?
No, I don't think this was necessarily well documented.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, shortly after this time, Tammy was at home with her mother in Florida. For some reason, Tammy decided to go outside. Now, this was now an unusual thing for her since she had actually just started hiding in her home and specifically hiding in her room. So no one knows why she decided to go out the front door, right?
Okay.
Now, Linda wasn't exactly certain what happened, but she thinks that essentially when Tammy got outside that maybe a gust of wind may have blown the door shut, which locked, and then Tammy was locked outside.
Okay.
And that's when, as Linda says, Tammy went berserk. She bashed in the window with a bat she picked up in the front yard, Linda recalled, and she reached her hand in to unlock the door. She came running in, yelling and screaming, but before she could do anything else, I pinned her against the wall, and I just kept saying, "I love you, Tammy. I love you, Tammy," over and over again, and then she just went limp.
That's really, really bizarre, but like very chilling.
Yes.
I'm not sure what would be going on. Like, was it actually something going on, or was this something like she was perceiving?
So this sounds like an outright panic attack. Right. Yeah, but obviously, like, once the door closed and she was like stuck outside, she reacted in a way that like doesn't match the situation. We'll be back in a moment. Now, this incident is, again, so far from Tammy's normal behavior that Linda checked her into the Brevard Mental Health Center for a 72-hour hold.
Did they find that there was, like, anything going on with her?
So they did testing on her, both of what was going on with her mentally and also to make sure that she didn't have any drugs in her system.
Right.
So she did not have any drugs in her system. And after they released her, Linda said that she was told that Tammy was normal as far as they could tell. Like, they couldn't find anything.
No diagnosis of anything, schizophrenia or anything that could lead to this?
They don't give a diagnosis for her, no.
Okay.
Now, the plan from there was they were going to set her up with a psychotherapist to get another opinion, maybe possibly treatment. But that plan would never come together. We were too late, Linda said.
It's funny because with the times, I think now she would have actually at least been diagnosed probably with panic disorder.
Yeah.
Then they were just like, yeah, it's normal.
Like, we couldn't find anything.
That's good.
Right. Now, on July 5th, 1983, Tammy calls up her old friend Rick. The two of them had been very close. Rick had actually taken her to both his junior and senior high proms when he was in high school, and he described their relationship as existing in kind of a gray area. They weren't exactly like brother and sister, but they also didn't have a romance. Tammy, Rick said, could have anyone she wanted. But even if she had, Tammy actually hadn't been allowed to date as a teen, which is part of that whole, she's pretty sheltered from earlier, right?
So she could have even liked this kid, but not known she couldn't date. So she just didn't.
Yeah, I get the sense that, like, you know, they weren't just like friends, but also like it just nothing ever came together for them. Now, by the time Tammy called Rick in July, though, they had actually drifted apart. Rick had graduated from high school. Tammy had actually gone and got her GED, so the two didn't see each other often. Added to that was that Rick actually didn't like the kind of pressure Tammy put on herself anytime they were out in public. He said she felt like she had this image she had to live up to. Everything she did was like fine-tooth combed. Her makeup had to be just right. Her hair had to be in place. What she wore had to be perfect. This was kind of a fakeness that he couldn't stand to witness. It drives me crazy, to tell the truth, Rick said. I got burned out on the whole thing with so many people hanging around, so many people coming up to her. It was almost like having to compete for her attention, and I wasn't into that.
So she was actually a celebrity enough that people would come up to her?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be weird if you're out and...
Like, you're just trying to hang out with your friend.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, and so, like... And it really doesn't sound like... You know, because there's, like, different directions, like, you can go with that. And it doesn't sound like he was, like, ready to be like, yeah, like, Tammy's awesome. Thanks for other people for recognizing that. Right?
Yeah, he sounds more like low-key, though, because he wants her to just be natural and just have a quiet time out. And...
Right, and Tammy's like, no, I am... Yeah, like, it sounds like he only likes one version of Tammy.
Right.
But Tammy has several versions of her, right? Now, all of this is why Rick is likely surprised that Tammy wanted to reconnect with him after some time. She'd begun confiding in him that she thought someone was trying to kill her. So she's sharing this with more than just her mom. And on that night of July 5th, when he met up with her, she added that she had seen something that she shouldn't have.
So it's hard because, like, at one point she's saying, like, right now she's saying she saw something she shouldn't have. And then at another point, she's saying somebody stole something from her.
Right.
And then, like, so is there somebody trying to kill her?
Yeah, so I think this is where people become divided about what's going on with Tammy, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I can't really hazard a full guess about what's going on. Now, she tells this to Rick, and it's like he doesn't know how to exactly handle this confession. He brought her to church so they could pray together. And he said it's there that Tammy started crying. He'd later say, Tammy cried as hard as I've ever seen anybody cry before. Later, at around 11 p.m., he dropped her off outside her home, and before she got out, they made plans to head back to the church the next afternoon. Tammy looked over at Rick and said, I just want you to know I may have to go away for a while. But I also want you to know that I love you. Now, the two hugged, and Rick didn't ask for any explanations about what she was getting out there, but he promised to call her the next day. The next morning, Linda and Tammy were home together. Linda remembers hearing a car beep outside, and Tammy looked out the window, gathered a few things, and headed out. At the time, Linda was preoccupied by something else, but does remember that Tammy said, bye, Mommy, I'll see you in a little bit, okay? Before she left. In the car was Tammy's friend, Keith. He'd later share with reporters that at the time he was working at a bank, and she'd called him at work and asked him to drive over and pick her up. She also asked him for money. The two were friends, and he recalled that at the time she seemed to be going through something. This is kind of a paraphrase of what he said, but it was basically everything seemed to be falling in on her at the same time. She was acting real paranoid. She said her mom had put her in a hospital against her will, and Tammy was sleeping with a knife under her pillow. I don't know what happened to her. All I know is there was this explosion, and she really freaked out. So by the time he pulls up at her house, she's waiting for him, and the two drove off, and he gave her $300, and she asked that he then drive her to a friend's house in Fort Lauderdale, and he refused to do so. He said he was only on his lunch break. He just wouldn't be able to do it. According to some sources, the two actually argue about this. But according to Keith, that's when she said, let me out, stop. So he stopped on State Route A1A near what's called the Glass Bank building. That's the last time anyone saw Tammy.
Normally when we talk about these cases, it's pretty clear. Even if it doesn't seem even if there's not a ton of evidence, it's pretty clear, this is probably the direction it went.
Right.
I really don't know what's happening here.
Yeah. Yeah, what is going on with Tammy?
What happened? Is this something, did Tammy see something? Is she just paranoid? Did she go away on her own? Because she was saying that she
planned to go away
for a little bit. Mm-hmm. What happened to her?
Right. I mean, so what happens next is I don't know if it's going to provide any illumination, but we'll try. There are a few details about what happened to Tammy when she got out of that car. We know that Tammy tried to call her Aunt Ginger 3 times at the costume shop Ginger owned in Cocoa Beach.
How do we know that?
Because, so Ginger doesn't answer. She's out of town that day, but like there are messages, I think.
Okay. So for sure, like Keith is off the hook.
Keith is off the hook.
She was fine after leaving.
Yes.
Okay. That was like my big question.
Yeah, this kind of becomes a sticking point because Keith is only interviewed a few times about what happened that day.
Yeah.
Like her mom feels like Keith should have been like interviewed more, and the police were like no, like he didn't have anything to do with this. Right. Okay. Now, Tammy also tries to call her friend Ron, who owned a video store, but also he's not in either. That night when Tammy didn't come home, Linda starts calling every like friend of Tammy's that she could think of, but no one has seen Tammy. When her disappearance was reported to police, many initially think that Tammy had run away. And this was a sentiment that was prevalent amongst her group of friends. Ron, her friend who owned the video shop, he remembered being unsurprised about her disappearance. He'd say later, I remembered Linda as being very, well, how should I put this? Aggressive about Tammy's acting career. I always wondered if there were problems there, but I was surprised that Tammy never showed up again, and all this time she never called her mother. What is she, Houdini or something? I think that's very strange, don't you?
So her actual friends think she just kind of left?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the problem is that I get the sense that Tammy had a lot of friends maybe when she was younger and that was having some trouble maintaining friendships as she got older. So, for instance, she had a friend named Lisa in middle school, and the two of them seemed quite close at that time. And the week before Tammy went missing, Tammy called her. Even again, they hadn't talked in a while. So it's like another Rick. Lisa and Tammy had drifted apart. And then Tammy's doing all this, like trying to reconnect with people in the week of her disappearance.
Yeah, that's just unusual too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like usually what happens when someone's trying to reconnect in that manner, they're kind of planning something, right? Now, Lisa said about their kind of friendship breakup, she said, I felt it was my fault because I didn't try to get her to come over more. We stopped hanging out together because of me. I mean, I was getting so wrapped up in all of her problems. I wasn't letting myself grow up. I just got tired of it, I guess.
So she was also tired of like Tammy's, like all the things that come along with Tammy's life?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, on the week, though, of Tammy's disappearance, again, she calls up Lisa and she tells her that she's afraid for her life. So suddenly she's telling all these people that she hasn't talked to in a while, that she's scared.
Yeah.
Now, Lisa tries inviting her over to her house, but Tammy did not come over. Even in her recollections of her time with Tammy growing up, Lisa remembered the tension between Tammy and her mom. Once she remembered Tammy saying to her, man, once I hit 18, I'm out of here.
Was her mom ever looked at it as a suspect?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
No.
Because it would be more of her running away from her mom than her mom doing anything?
Yes, I get that sense.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just trying to piece it together because this is so confusing.
Mm-hmm. Like what could
just
happen?
Just bizarre, really, really unsettling.
Yeah, I did say it's one of Florida's most like baffling missing persons cases, and I think it's just because like what is going on with everyone, right? Now, Ginger, who's Tammy's aunt, remembers this whole relationship between Tammy and her mom kind of differently. She said Tammy was definitely afraid of somebody. She said it was real. I'm convinced of that. And when Ginger was asked if Tammy ran away, she said, give me a break. Of course, children and their parents get into fights. I know many people felt like Linda led Tammy's life, but that's not true at all. Tammy was more independent than my 3 boys put together. Linda raised her to be that way. People are creatures of habit. Tammy called her mother all the time, no matter where she was. They were very close. The only way Tammy wouldn't call Linda is if something bad happened to her or if she was under someone else's control. For Linda, though, her belief was that somebody harmed Tammy. Whether that was someone that Tammy was worried about or one of the several serial killers stalking Florida in the 1980s, she wasn't certain.
Did they actually look into it being serial killers?
Yeah, so, I think we've talked about this a little bit before about how one of the most startling things is that when someone goes missing, particularly in this era, like the 70s and 80s, that like it could be any number of serial killers, right? Mm-hmm. So in Florida.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
It could be any number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like
so there was several then looked into.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit with like particularly the Pacific Northwest.
I know. It's just always like,
oh, is it that serial killer or is it a different one, right? Now, one of those killers was named Christopher Wilder. He was actually an Australian who had relocated to the U.S. and was soon dubbed the Beauty Queen Killer or the Snapshot Killer. He was traced in Florida in at least 1984, so close to around the same time. And he began killing young women before going on what can only be called a cross-country murder spree. Wilder was specifically known for luring in young women with promises of taking their photographs so that they could be used for modeling agencies. Now, many of the young women had a lot in common with Tammy, like big dreams, pretty, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. After Wilder was killed in a shootout with state troopers in New Hampshire, Linda sued his estate for compensation in her daughter's death and for lost revenue for the earnings that Tammy would have made.
Why does that make me feel really sad?
Like the lost revenue part?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it's one thing if you think this person did something to your child to want compensation. I don't even know, but like for their death, but like her earning potential, like her lost revenue, is that such a weird place to go? Or is it just me?
So it does seem uncomfortable, right? Particularly because Linda's occupying this space as both her mom and her manager. And so it feels kind of almost cutthroat.
But would a manager sue for something like that?
So
if a celebrity dies, is the manager allowed to get compensation for like lost revenue? Is that allowed?
I do know a family member can. So in our episode that we talked about the disappearance of Marion Carver, who disappeared on a cruise ship, one of the kind of legal aspects that people were wrangling with in terms of cruise ship disappearances was that could families and how can families be compensated for lost revenue for a missing person or a presumed murdered person? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's...
feel weird, though? Like, it like feels like we're not valuing the person on them, but like on their potential for giving us something.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, though, if you think about all the different scenarios in which this could play out, and I think, like say, for instance, like what happens if like there's a like lawyer mom and lawyer dad or something, and they are killed and can no longer support their family, like what happens to the revenue and the money, the financial support that they would have given to say their children? Yeah, there's like a lot of different avenues.
They're used to like a certain lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. It's probably not that weird, but it feels a little uncomfortable to me.
I mean, I think it's like, complicated by her mom kind of occupying this like both roles space here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Now, like Linda, she ends up saying that she doesn't actually think that Wilder did it. She just hoped that the lawsuit would actually force the release of more information about her daughter's case. Now, Wilder was never charged with Tammy's disappearance or death, so this lawsuit is kind of, I believe, dropped.
Okay.
Another name that gets thrown around in connection with Tammy was John Brennan Crutchley, who is known as the vampire rapist.
What? What does that mean?
Oh, his name.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're...
Does he rape vampires or is he a vampire rapist?
He's a vampire rapist. We're kind of fast and loose with our serial killer names in the 70s and 80s.
What are we doing here?
Now, okay. Crutchley, he's also from Florida. He's suspected in the deaths of anywhere from 2 to 30 different victims.
2 to 30?
Yeah. Now, in one instance, he drained his victim of nearly all of her blood, which did earn him the moniker vampire rapist.
How?
I did not want to know.
You don't know and you don't want to know, so I don't get to know?
I think I know enough things that sometimes I just don't want to know.
So is it something I'm better not knowing?
I mean, you could look it up.
I won't, but I'm also a little curious, but also I am scared of the answer.
Right. Now, Crutchley committed these crimes between 1978 and 1985 throughout several states, so it would make sense that he was considered as a possibility in Tammy's disappearance. In fact, he had moved to Brevard County in 1983, which was just 2 months before Tammy disappeared. But there are no known connections that have been found between the two to make that certain. So it seems like every possible direction, there were still just too few answers.
Could these have been the things she witnessed? We won't ever know.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I think in several instances, Tammy essentially said that she witnessed something either in person or that someone told her about, kind of people in power in Brevard County doing things that they shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
There's also just the notion that, which is what we've talked before, could Tammy have run away? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also one of the things that Vanessa and I talk about often, right, Vanessa, is that when someone runs away, it also puts them at risk of encountering someone dangerous. So someone like Crutchley or Wilder or someone else in Florida who's preying on people.
Or just getting herself maybe even into a situation that there's no coming back from.
Right. So that could be anything, accident, right, mishap, all of those things.
Right.
Yeah. We do know that she had at least said to her friend Rick that she had been planning to go away, but he didn't ask those kind of follow-up questions what do you mean? He just thought they would meet the next day, go to church, and maybe talk more then. Right?
Yeah. Well, and the kind of reaching out to everybody and the paranoia and the freakouts.
Yeah.
There's just so many weird things happening.
There's a lot going on.
I just wish there was
a firmer direction.
Yeah, right? More answers or a direction at least.
Now, in 1992, Tammy's case was actually featured on Unsolved Mysteries, but even national coverage did little to move her case along. One of her high school classmates did become a PI and began working on her case, hoping to uncover the truth, but even his efforts shed little light on what exactly happened to Tammy Lynn. In 1995, Tammy's mother, Linda, was actually in hospice care. She was just 54 years old. She was dying of degenerative heart disease, and she had been rejected for a kidney and liver transplant. So she needed a transplant. She couldn't get those transplants because of her heart condition. Linda wanted to spend her final days in Orlando, where she had been living since Tammy disappeared. On October 4th, 1995, Linda passed away without ever knowing what happened to her daughter. But that doesn't mean that Tammy has faded from everyone's memory. In 1998, there was a woman named Suzanne who wrote to reporter Billy Cox. Suzanne and her twin sister Sandy had been taken away from their biological mother as infants as a result of neglect. They had been adopted a couple of different times, and as they grew older, Suzanne was determined to learn more about their past. In 1996, she learned that she had been born in Cape Canaveral to Linda. Suzanne and Sandy were half-sisters to Tammy, and in learning about their mother, they also learned that Tammy was missing.
That's a lot to learn about. And then their mom having just died the year before.
So, yeah, what actually is really fascinating is that one of the things that Suzanne learns, because she had actually lived in some of the same areas as her mom.
Okay.
And then at times they had gone to the same church.
Huh.
So it's possible she was passing by her mom.
Right. And given her age and everything, would she have known about Tammy?
Yeah. Had heard those news stories.
Seen her in a movie or heard the news stories and never knew.
And then finding out that you have a sister, but you have a sister who's been missing.
Yeah.
So Suzanne writes to the reporter Billy Cox, "I've been trying to find her for 2 years. I can't find her. This has been all very disturbing and depressing for me. In my heart and in my gut, I do not feel she's okay and out there somewhere anymore. It's really sad no one seems to care anymore.
She's saying it right. It is disturbing. I guess that's the way I feel about this entire story.
Now, in learning about Tammy, she also learns about how many Jane Does there are around the country, and she couldn't stop thinking about them and Tammy. So, she's this new awareness about missing persons, right? I'm having trouble with the idea that nobody seems to care anymore, she told Billy back then. But it turns out that someone did care, and that person was Suzanne. And to this day, she still runs a Facebook page dedicated to finding the sister that she never had the chance to meet. And now, hearing this, I know that all of our listeners also care too what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert, who was a bright light, and it was dimmed all too quickly.
We're now going to listen to Amy's poem, At the Horizon Line, read by Kathy Garver. Most fondly remembered for her starring role as Sissy in the long-running television hit Family Affair, Kathy Garver has also garnered critical acclaim in movies, stage, radio, voiceover, animation, speaking, and audiobook narration. To add to her long list of credits and accolades, Kathy was nominated for a 2026 Grammy Award for the Best Audiobook, Narration, Storytelling Recording for Elvis, Rocky, and Me. She also received the Golden Era Award in March of 2026 and will receive the Margaret O'Brien Legacy Award in December of 2026. In addition, Ms. Garver added author to her long list of accomplishments, publishing several books including The Family Affair Cookbook, her memoir, Surviving Sissy, My Family Affair of Life in Hollywood, Ex-Child Stars, Where Are They Now?, Hollywood Recipes for a Family Affair, The Family Affair Scrapbook, and Romanticizing with the Stars. The talented Miss Garver has also won several awards, including Best Actress from the Family Television Awards, 2 Audie Awards for her narration of the world's best short stories and her direction of Amy Tan in The Opposite of Fate, read by the author. She was also recognized by the Young Artists Foundation with the former Child Star Lifetime Achievement Award and Emerald Award from the Southern California Motion Picture Council. In 2013, this prestigious organization also bestowed on Ms. Garver the highly esteemed Golden Halo Lifetime Achievement Award, previously given to Mickey Rooney and Margaret O'Brien.
At the Horizon Line, Tammy Lynn Leppert, 18, missing since July 6, 1983 from Cocoa Beach. You said you wanted to live forever on the beach. The pull of waves against your legs, the soft sand clinging to your skin. At the horizon line, the beach disappears, edges lost in the fire of every sunset you missed. How many times did you trace your name in the sand, watched it slip away with the tide? Hold your breath, you whispered, just as the water turned, the waves moving over you in spite of yourself. This is what the ocean demands from us, you might say, running your hand through the droplets coursing down your skin. The world has always asked something of you. Your smile, the tears you can conjure on any stage, the bright lights and slicked-on lipstick, nothing like the way suntan lotion warmed your skin. It has always asked and keeps asking.
For more information about our show, please visit shegoesbyjanepodcast.com.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.